Great. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Meaghan FitzGerald. I'm a developer relations engineer at Avalanche. Thank you very much for joining today. Today, we're going to be talking about ACP 236, which is introducing continuous staking to the P-Chain. And then we're also going to be following that with a presentation on ACP 247, which is a community-based ACP. That is going to introduce changes to the delegation multiplier and the max validation cap, or proposes to introduce so. Our first presenter is going to be Razvan. He is an engineer on the platform team, and he will be presenting on ACP 236. I'll let you introduce yourself, Razvan. And then the second presenter will be Jaack, who is the one who raised ACP 247. So welcome, everybody. And take it away, Razvan.
Hey, guys. As Meaghan said, I'm Razvan. I'm a senior software engineer in the platform engineering group at Eva, and I'm the author of the ACP 236, and I will conduct the presentation for today. At any point, if there are any questions, please feel free to interrupt me because I want everything to go smoothly and clear. So yeah, thanks. So what is actually continuous staking? It is the mechanism that allows the validators to stake for an indefinite amount of time. The rewards are automatically restaked without requiring any action. So what is the motivation behind this? The manual restaking is an operational burden and can lead to security issues because it requires signing some transactions. Validators, which are committed to long periods, have some reduced flexibility because of that. And also idle periods can occur between the staking cycles. So actually, the goal is reducing the friction, improving the UX, and also increase the sustained staking participation. Let's have a brief overview of how the current staking mechanism works. The validators specify how much time they want to stake. And after that, for restaking, it requires doing the same process over again. So sending the same transactions, signing, and specifying the same fields which they did earlier. Going back to the ACP, how it's going to work is like this. The validators will specify the cycle duration and the portion of the rewards to be automatically restaked. They can signal to stop anytime, but they will effectively stop only at the end of the current cycle. So still you cannot stop being stopped mid-cycle. You can signal at any time and it will stop you only when the current cycle ends. The cycle is using the same protocol existing rules. It must be between 2 weeks and 1 year. The rewards are accrued once per cycle at the end. Uptime is tracked per cycle for the rewards eligibility, and restaking is happening automatically at the end of it without requiring any action from you. Are there any questions until this point? Because if there are, okay.
Yeah, just real quick, what do you mean by stopped? Do you mean the validator? You mean you're signaling it to stop, or your validator is actually not running?
If you want to stop your validator, to exit being a validator, okay. Actually.
So you're signaling to stop. I want to just make sure it's not operational. Yeah. Thank
you. Okay, I think we can move on. Let's define what is the auto-renew config. For now, it defines how the rewards are handled when the cycle ends. Currently, it only contains the restake percentage, which, as I presented earlier, is the percentage of the earned rewards, which are going to be added back to the staking amount. This percentage is, you can be able to update it anytime, and is going to take action at the end of the cycle. When you create a validator, you are going to authorize a wallet, which is going to be able to update this config. For now, it only contains the percentage. But in the end, there are also some open discussions about including some other stuff, but we'll go into those discussions in the end. We have here a brief overview of the flow, which at the beginning there is this step 1 where the validator is actually added. You specify the cycle duration and the percentage. After the current, actually after any cycle is going to end, the validator is automatically restaked without doing anything based on this percentage. So a portion of it is going to be added to the principal, and the rest is going to be withdrawn. We have also the optional step 3, which at any time you can adjust the. So it's pretty much straightforward and easy. We have also the stopping flow. Supposing there is this validator which has been active for a while, at some point it decides to stop. It signals this wheeling, let's say in the middle of a cycle. The validator will still be running that cycle, and at the end of that cycle, it will stop, and the staking amount and the rewards are going to be withdrawn as the same as it is right now. We can go a little bit into details about how the rewards and restaking works. So at the cycle, when the cycle ends, based on the auto renew config, the rewards are going to be split into 2 piles. We have the restaking pile, which is going to be added to the staking principal, and we have the withdrawal pile, which goes to the wallet. At any the total staking amount is going to exceed the max stake limit of the network, the excess is going to be withdrawn. So after that, the staking amount will be, for example, for the mainnet will be 3 million AVAX, because that's the maximum stake limit there. Let's a little bit. Okay, Erwin?
A quick question, just to clarify, like I assume that the second pile that's going to be returned, that goes in the same way to the beneficiary address that is not necessarily the same as the validator that did the transaction, right? It's like,
Yep.
okay, yeah.
So the structure of the validator is the same. You can choose where to return the initial staking amount, and also you can specify another wallet where the rewards are going to go. Okay, so we go to the delegation part. The delegation is going to be exactly the same. They are not continuous, and they must fit within a single validation cycle, because you may not know when that validator is going to decide to exit. So this ACP is only focusing on the validation part, not on the delegation side. So wrapping this up, these are the ACP 236 goals: fewer transactions, more participation, and continuous rewards. I think this is the perfect moment before going into some specific discussions. If there are any unclear points or questions, please. Yep, Leo.
Yeah, I'm wondering, so with the auto renewal at the end of the cycle, what's the incentive of choosing any cycle direction that is not the minimum, if there's going to be auto renewal afterwards anyway?
This is because the current formula of the staking rewards is based on the duration of the period. So if you choose a longer period, you are going to receive more rewards. Okay. As it is right now. So actually,
is it already like this now? It's something I didn't even know, to be honest.
It's already like this.
Okay, interesting. Thanks.
So the tokenomics part, the formulas and the calculations are exactly the same. This is just for easing the UX and incentivizing to restake much more easier.
Okay.
Yep, Jovika.
This applies only to primary network staking, right? L1 staking is not affected by this ACP, correct?
Exactly. This is only for P-Chain. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just real quick. Is this opt-in? Like, what happens with existing old style staking going on?
This will require a network upgrade. So by having the upgrade, we can consider all of the existing validators signaling their stop, like they did signal their stop. So they can be exited automatically. And then they are going to choose whatever they want.
Thank you.
So I think that was like that. I think that was more of a question of whether or not we're going to like deprecate the old transaction types.
Yeah, I'm wondering what happens with if you still have the old type, and then what's going to happen. People are currently staking. What happens in that situation? You know, someone's still signed up for a year. Does it just time out, and then the next time they decide to put in the renew switch?
You can actually have the same behavior as the current staking mechanism. Like if you like to, let's say, stake for half a year, you can add your staking as a continuous validator for half a year, with the period being half a year, and then you can signal your stop at any point during this period. So it's like a fixed staking.
No, I get the feature. I'm just not clear what's happening with current staking. If this goes through, what happens with all the current staked validators?
They
You guys
can,
have a transition plan. Basically, what happens when this gets activated? Does everyone have to take their existing stake and mark what they want to happen at the end?
no, this doesn't require any action from the existing people which are already staking. They can be in their already existing cycle, and at the end of it, they will behave like the current staking mechanism. They receive their rewards and they can choose whatever they want after.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I think also, just to clarify, the ACP does not propose deprecating any of the existing transaction types. So those will continue to exist and function as they are today. So purely a new optional flow for people who want to opt into it.
I think Jaack is next on the question queue.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So my question was, what about new stake? Like you were saying, like that you can choose a percentage of the current stake to be restaked. But what about if that exceeds? Because if I want to restake my rewards as well.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't properly understand.
So let's say I stake 2,000 AVAX, and at the end of the year for 6% APY, I get 120 AVAX of rewards. I want to stake 106% at the beginning, at the end of the renewal cycle, at the beginning of the new renewal cycle.
So I think the percentage is only describing the rewards. So your stake will remain staked, and then the percentage, like the percentage talks about the reward that you get. So you're just breaking up the stake, that principal that you initially staked will remain staked always.
Yep, this
Okay.
is a percentage out of the rewards, not based on your total staking amount.
And what if I want to? Then the other question would be, what if I want to just stake a percentage of my current stake? Like starting from 2,000 AVAX, well, maybe I have a 3,000 AVAX, and then in the next cycle, I want to stake 2,500.
Oh, okay, I got it now. The current proposal doesn't include any way of doing that. It's only this percentage, it's focusing only the rewards part.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is that something that people would find valuable to have as a feature?
Yeah, AVAX validators had
Now,
a decreasing stake over time. I'm not in charge of the AVAX validators, but that's what we did. So like from base, well, with new ACPs, maybe that's going to change. But I believe one way, the thing is, maybe the APY will change over time, and maybe I will not need to have that much AVAX to get my same, absolute APR. So maybe, the API will be 8% instead of 6%. So I will need less AVAX to do the same amount of money, basically. So maybe there's going to be companies or individuals that want to optimize for that.
Yeah, I think the proposed design here was trying to be thoughtful of like different countries' tax kind of implications. So like, some people are going to be like legally obligated to treat, these staking rewards in some certain ways. And so that was trying to like split that out. But like more advanced, like, token management definitely wasn't, super considered. But I don't,
Makes
like
sense.
we could certainly do that, but yeah.
Yeah, because that would be one other tool to simply, make people forget about staking and just stake for 10 years, maybe. If you have a strategy for your treasury management 10 years, you can just do that. Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. Actually, I have two questions. One is, I think it will be more a discussion point, so let's deal with that later. But the the second one is about the idea of what could we do for the delegation transactions. I know, like, my question is essentially is it because we want to keep this ACP simple first, and then we will take a look at it later or something? Because I would like to see a similar construction for delegations, and in fact, kind of, I proposed about 2 years ago. Actually, didn't propose. I just started a discussion on ACP like about 2 years ago, exactly on something like this. And it's quite similar, but I did start discussing on the delegations as well. So to add corresponding delegation cycles that they would still apply to fit in within the period of the validator and so on, and to deal with that, I would love to see that. And I talk this as kind of a chorus one, right? Validation service providers, like we would like to have to make it easy for our customers to just delegate to our validators and keep it there, which is a lot of churn right now. Includes even situations where we have to manage multiple validators just for having enough time for delegators to come and kind of stake with us. So I understand if this is, we don't want to cover this this now in this ACP. It makes sense to keep things separate and simple, but I would like to hear kind of the ideas.
That's certainly one aspect I wanted to also call out for, I think this ACP reduces the operational overhead of having shorter validation periods. Like one kind of implicit benefit, not only the higher APY that Razvan called out of having a longer staking period right now, is that you don't have to come back every 2 weeks and restake. So you just set it for 2 months, and your like work overhead of restaking is 1/4 what it was. But if you, in this new world where that overhead's gone, just set 2 weeks auto renewal, then you can't accept any delegations ever.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of validators will opt for that now because it gives more flexibility over their principal while still always validating on 2 week cycles. But that does mean they're foregoing any potential validations. So there's still an incentive to go for a longer validation period in order to be able to accept validations.
Yeah.
That's specifically in relation to this 236 ACP. I realize I didn't answer or discuss the delegation side of it, which isn't.
No, but I understand what you're saying. Like if you put 2 weeks, then it will always recycle and you will never have space for delegations. Of course, like for us, like it would be like, we set something like a year, like we are doing it right now at the maximum period, and it will auto renew and it's all fine. And what is interesting for us is that delegators can come and also say, hey, here is, and let's put it at the minimum delegation cycle of two weeks as well. And this just kind of the same thing applies, right? And if it doesn't fit, because like the validator is finishing next week, then auto exit, right? Auto exit. That's essentially the idea. But we can leave this for another ACP. I understand that. Like it's just more. I would like to get this discussion going as well. And I had one other point, but I see Samuel. Sol, sorry. Yeah.
On the delegation point there, a question for you is like, would it be sufficient if there's a continuous delegation mechanism within a single validation period? So I think that a large complexity of like auto-renewed delegation is if the validator stops, which could happen at any point. But in a discrete validator period, I think it'd be much easier to have.
Yeah, that would be already definitely a step in the right direction, a huge step. I can tell you a huge step in the right direction, because like for a year period of, if we set a max period of, well, now in this wording here would be the cycle of 1 year. That already kind of gives a lot of more stability and ease of use for our customers. But essentially, we could consider then going to the last step in the future. Perhaps raise the maximum cycle, the cycle for 2 years or something like that. These are all kinds of stuff that we could look into.
Samuel also has a very good point. If the validator is going to choose to restake 0%, let's say, and the delegators wants to restake more, at some point it could exceed the maximum limit of delegation value based on the staking amount. So this is more complicated.
True, it is true. I did have this discussion here before, like trying to take a look. Just for everyone that wants to take a look, you can go there. It was a conversation with Abi87. I don't know who it is, but I think he's from Avalanche. Again, from back then. But yes, it is. I agree. It is more complicated. So perhaps this, what Michael said, is already enough for the time being, and keep things simple. Yeah.
Erwin, before we move on to your other question, I want to give Saul a chance because I think his question will be related to this conversation.
Hey guys, yes. You might have said it, but I missed it. But I just wanted to make sure. So now I can stake indefinitely, and then as long as the period, let's say the minimum period that I commit to is like, let's say 1 year. After that, I can signal to exit at any time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you could literally stake for the 1 year and then immediately signal that you want it to end at the end of the 1 year. It would essentially be the same way staking happens now.
To clarify though, whenever you enter into a new cycle, you're bound until the end of that cycle. So if you like stake for a year, like your cycle's a year, and then you go through that and you've now finished your year, and then after that finishes, you signal to exit, you are locked in for another year. To be clear. So it is not that like after the bound you can exit at any time and you get like additional rewards off of that. It is very much maintaining the same system as before. It's just essentially acting as if you, as soon as you exited, you immediately re-entered. So that's very much how to think about it. Just automating that process.
Okay. So yeah, my second question was regarding the rewards. So at the time of exit, that's when I get the rewards.
Yes.
Yes.
Or
what?
I mean, go ahead, Stephen.
No, go ahead, Razvan.
Okay. So it depends on the percentage that you want to restake. If you would like, I don't know, to withdraw at every cycle and all the rewards, you can specify a percentage of 0. So you just will remain with this initial stake amount at every cycle from that moment on. and you are going to receive your rewards in the specified wallet. So you just receive the earned rewards.
Got it. Got
In
it.
my example.
Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you.
One super maybe pedantic thing, like for validators, we have a differentiation between the validation rewards owner and the delegation rewards owner. Up to this point, we've kind of talked generically about the like rewards percentage and like combining that in. How are we like rolling those things over across the bound? And maybe yeah, like maybe this has just gone into in the ACP and I haven't seen that since the first draft, and maybe this is deep in the weeds, but
Is it not the case right now that the delegations that fit within the period, they kind of accumulate and are accounted for and then paid out only at the end, right?
Yep.
yes, that is true. But I'm wondering, like the reward percentage, like is that taken out of both of the validator like rewards and the delegator rewards, and then like kept over into the next period, but like
Yeah, I get
like
it.
yeah.
Mm.
It's a percentage out of each one.
Yeah, which is the same as summing them up and then taking a percentage, right? Like it's just that it might go to different addresses. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you will keep the distinction of like we say you have like a 50% like restaking. What you'll essentially do is you'll take like half of the validator rewards, half of the accumulated delegation rewards. You'll kick those out into UTXOs at that point, and then for the next cycle, you will just
main stake
basically
plus.
carry those over. And so then if you say exit after the second period, then you would have the sum of half of the delegations from the first period along with all of the delegations in the second period go to the delegation owner. And that like is that the
Yeah, you need to keep track of them from the beginning. So you can withdraw in the specific wallets.
Makes sense.
Okay, Razvan. Oh, sorry.
Is there any like interest in having different percentages for those, or like do people not care and single percentage for both is sufficient? Sounds like no one cares. So sounds like
I think if anybody would care, it would be Erwin. So if we don't hear anything from him, I think we're probably good.
I mean, this doesn't come up. No, I don't think it will be any.
It's curious though, because I would think that maybe your self-stake rewards, as course one like as a business, would be treated differently than delegation fees. But isn't that the case?
Well, I mean, the way I'm looking at is that we would probably run with like zero restake, kind of zero restake thing. So we just run like with the main for the main stake to have space, because we essentially run these validators either for vast customers, right, or like ourselves, and it's just like for having the space there. And then like looking at the period, like we would, like you said, like there was a question like this before, what we would want to do if we want to enlarge the stake, let's say the space, is to stop and start again with more self collateral. But yeah, like I think like it's yes, it would be very good to have all knobs, but if we want to keep kind of doing step by step, like I would say like first have this ACP together with perhaps the step in the right direction that we mentioned there of validators being able to be there in that period. That is really the big step, and then like we can look at the kind of more sophisticated and yeah.
So Stephen, yes, I think the answer is yes, but maybe not now.
Yeah, like I mean, and like I said, it's good to have all the knobs, but is it more complicated? Will it make it more worse to implement or something like that. That I leave to the devs, right? I'm not a dev, but
no, but I think it's not, as far as I understand it from Stephen and from all the other labs, it's not about what you can do technically, it's about what you can do operationally. Like everything is doable, but how is that going to change, how the consensus, how the, all the operations between the validators and the validators themselves operate on the network. So I believe it's more about that, because, we're talking about, billions of dollars in staking and all related revenue and numbers. So
yeah. So like I said, for us, like the delegation rewards, we take everything. Like we don't put that again in the stake.
But the self stake you would.
No, the self stake is out of this, right? Self stake I would put there, and then like how we would run the validator would be to put 0%.
So yeah, because Stephen was asking, like, maybe we have two knobs, one for self stake and one for delegation. So you were saying yes, that would be useful. Maybe say 100% of the rewards gonna be back into.
It would be useful. We wouldn't use, but yes, I can see the use case. Yes. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we get to the one open question that Michael actually posed, and then have enough time so that Jaack can present as well. Razvan, can you go ahead and present that one open discussion point?
Sure. So one important point that Michael suggested in the GitHub discussion is making the staking period included in the auto-renew config, so you can change it at any time. Because with the current approach, if you would like to adjust the period, you need to stop the validator and stake again from scratch. So summarizing, Michael was suggesting making the period updatable at any time by taking effect at the cycle end.
Yeah, to
which
be
I
clear,
feel like is very nice.
You can't change your current period, but like in the same way that you can change the percentage of the rewards you restake, you can change what you want the next cycle's settings to be.
I don't think it's anyone against this, but I would like to hear probably an opinion or.
I mean, I clearly would say it's something I want. I'm not someone who sets to the max period, someone who has to think about how long I want each stake. So I want to do that in advance. It's a hassle to have to wait for the validation period to end to then implement that change.
Can you repeat what you just said, Mike?
Well, if you're on a maximum time period, you don't care about this. But if you have something that's a shorter time period and you want to, based on market conditions or other operational considerations, it's nice to be able to set this in the auto renew config. So, hey, maybe I'm doing 3 months now. Okay, I want to maybe extend this now to 6 months the next time. I don't want to have to sit around and wait for the validation period to end and then implement that change. I wanted to say, okay, I'm making the choice right now. When this ends, my next period will be the 6 month period. Or maybe I want to max it out to annual. I really would like to see this added in, if not in this ACP in the future.
I'd say you might also care more if you set a year-long period and then you don't want to auto-renew for the year. But I think real motivation is like would want to avoid any situations where in order to modify your validator, in any way, you have to first, in the middle of your validation period, say stop, and then come back at the end of the validation period and restart again, issuing another auto renewal, because that's effectively just a worse UX than using the current flow today of like, okay, here's my validation period. I will come back and tell you the next time exactly what I want. So making as many of the parameters, such as the length, the rewards amount that auto renew, potentially the principal, although I know the principal is harder to adjust, modifiable for the next cycle during the current cycle, seems like it'd be the best UX. So I think that the period length is one that's hopefully not too difficult. I'm not sure about the principal though. I think Jaack, you were asking about that earlier, and I think wasn't clear to me exactly how that could be done, or if it would be too complicated to introduce.
As far as I know, based on the current state implementation, decreasing the initial stake is quite difficult, because most of the logic is linked to the idea that the weight is the same or increasing. So that is going to be something delayed or very difficult to be implemented.
Is that the case? Just for my own understanding, it's like it's not the case now across validation, different validations, right? But I'm not sure what the state layout actually is of, you know, if my validator ends and then 1 minute later I add it back, or I you know, add the same validator using the same node ID, same DLS key, all of that, with less stake. Does that end up at the same state?
No, because with the current continuous approach, the validator state is updated. It's not like removing and inserting.
Gotcha.
I guess we can move to the next point, which is a suggestion from Apex Monkey, a nice one. So he said, what should we do with a validator which we observe that, which the other nodes observe it as not meeting the uptime requirements? I think we should automatically exit them based on some successive fail cycles, I guess, because we don't want them to hang forever there.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. It's like, it seems like a little scary to let nodes vote out other nodes. Like, but I think it's probably fine.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, wouldn't be like, if they're not like interested in the network anymore, wouldn't just be like voted, wouldn't they just vote themselves out by not like doing hardware upgrades, for example, like Avalanche upgrades? We're not participating in consensus anymore when there's a breaking upgrade, right?
What was the, so I think the thing here, right, is like, if a node goes offline, they're still like in the staking set and they're just like offline, right? They're not proposing blocks, they're not participating in consensus, and they're not going to be getting rewards, like, because they're getting voted as offline, right? So the question is, it's like, well, should we just kick them out of the validator set? And then like the percentage of successful queries will go up, the successful block production will go up, because we don't have this kind of like dead weight in the on the P-Chain, right? So even if a node is like offline, like that does impact the protocol.
But like if we have like 100 validators and one has real uptime, and then there's a breaking Avalanche upgrade, and this validator doesn't upgrade, wouldn't that be removed from the validator set?
The node is just treated as offline. It's not removed from the validator set.
It's just offline. Oh, okay.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to introduce a circuit breaker or something like that. That basically would be, you get a renewed cycle only if you get rewarded. So if you were online and virtuous for the previous period, then you can get automatically renewed. If you didn't get a reward, you automatically get removed from the validator set, and then you need to restake again manually. That would, I think, solve the issue of forgotten validators, which might happen over time.
I think that's a great idea.
Isn't this probably a bad idea for someone who is going to have the minimum period, which is 2 weeks? Maybe it can happen at some point for them to be offline for some days.
Probably yes, but I would say that the stability of the network takes precedence over them, over their inconvenience of having to restake again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they have that uptime within 2 weeks, maybe they're not that good at operating the node.
There was also talk like a long time ago about like forced exiting, where like a validator could exit immediately and like forego all of their like rewards and stuff like that. That had been a topic of conversation a long time ago. Totally unrelated to this conversation, but just throwing it out there that that is something that is kind of in the back pocket of potential ideas.
I think just want to add one additional benefit. We were talking about benefit to the network of those, a validator who didn't get rewards not being auto-renewed because they're potentially still offline. I think there's also a potential UX improvement for people who like missed a network upgrade or like otherwise have forgotten about their nodes of being kicked out, because say you auto-renew with a 2-week cycle, your node's offline, you don't get your rewards, and you only notice it 4 days into the next cycle. Well, now your stake's still locked for 10 days, and you know you're not getting any rewards for those 10 days anyways. So it would have been better for the network for you to have not been staked for those 4 days, but also it's better for you because when you do notice it, now you can just auto-renew or add yourself back in and not have future time that you know you're not locked in for and not getting rewarded for.
Wouldn't that potentially expose like some sort of attack though, where obviously you don't expect to get any kind of staking rewards, but like you're staking and then you're purposefully going offline so that you're unstaked like as soon as you possibly can? Like, would that not become an issue maybe?
How's that any different than the current staking?
Because the current staking, you don't get kicked if you've been offline and if you've committed to a year.
Well, no, but like, well, no. There's no. So you're still getting kicked out at the end of your period.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, you always get kicked out at the end of your
Isn't
period.
what Michael's saying is that if you've already been offline for more than like if you've already considered like you're not going to be getting a reward, Michael is saying like, let's kick you before your staking period ends. Oh no, he's not.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm saying this is just a benefit of not auto-renewing validators who did not receive any rewards for the previous cycle.
I see. Okay. Yes, Erwin?
And come back to that other point. So that's a simple one, but I think it's more like a discussion point, and that is to reduce the minimum staking period. I put that a comment there in the discussion. Right now it's at 14 days, but I mentioned there that a big use case nowadays is the whole ETFs and DOTs and so on, and essentially like products in TradFi that want to invest in crypto, and they have like these requirements that don't fit here quite so well. And in fact, like it also doesn't fit in a lot of other chains, namely Ethereum and some Cosmos chains. But it does fit, for example, in Solana, where like you can unstake and in one day you have this Sol liquid. If we would tie this ACP with a minimum cycle of 1 day, then we could actually unlock this case as well. And this, I can tell you, there is demand. We have people actually asking for that. So I would like to kind of open that can of worms.
Is this like a prelude to a future Jaack ACP?
Yeah. Well,
so like, because I know like there might be some things with stability, right, of the stake, or perhaps overhead even on the P-Chain because the cycle is very short. So I understand all that. So would like to balance out the discussion and really know what would the impact be, because it's still only for the main net, right? On the other hand, yeah, I would like to hear the arguments.
Aran, did you have a response or a different question?
No, I was just going to reiterate that that's a request that I've received from many different angles. So it's like we should really focus on that. And I think the name continuous staking suggests to people that that's what this is going to be, versus rolling staking, which is what is really being implemented in this ACP. So like shorter period is something that's closer to the idea of continuous. It's something that's very important. Only caveat I can think of is that if you reduce the minimum,
we can't really hear you very good.
Oh, sorry. I'll try again. It's something that I've received
No,
requests for.
Iran.
So
Okay.
It's bad.
It's pretty bad. Yeah. If you couldn't understand him, I could, thank God. But he basically said he has also had very many requests like Erwin for a shorter staking period. And also he's proposing renaming the ACP because continuous is misleading since we're kind of doing this cycle restaking thing. So he wants to propose that the name would be, I believe, auto-renewed staking, which I think is more of a it's a more accurate descriptor of how staking will work if this is implemented. Aran, if you have any other points, I don't know, could you type it?
by the way, I believe that decoupling the Erwin, I believe that decoupling the the minimum stake duration from the continuous staking would be better, because maybe the continuous staking will have further discussion for just for starters this 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 is also the continuous staking is also a technical discussion, while the minimum staking duration does not seem like a pure technical discussion. It is.
I agree. It can be part of like this, like you said, like your ACPs, right? Like this parameter tuning. I can understand that. I just want to really be here and say it, that there is a lot of demand for that, and like it is something that
I know that
other chain is not to be named, like already have it, and they're kind of ahead on that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I would say the concerns are like if you look at the P-Chain, there's actually a lot of like blocks on the P-Chain. Like P-Chain very consistently is producing blocks, and that's kind of because of how delegation works and the delegation rewards. And if we like just changed like everything to have like a really quick like renew period for delegations as well, like if we go from 2 weeks to a day, like there's a very real chance that like we just 14x like the block rate of the P-Chain.
Yeah.
So that would be, certainly potentially concerning. If we just did it for validation and didn't do it for delegation, I think that that's probably less concerning, because they're really just, like you look at the amount of validators, like 1,000 validators, like they're not a significant portion of like the P-Chain load right now, so you could probably get away with it without too much technical concern. If you wanted to do it including delegation, we would probably have to like actually look at redesigning the delegation reward process, which is not insurmountable, but is definitely like a lot more than just a parameter change. So that would be my take on that quickly.
The delegation, I believe, would be impacted by liquid staking ETFs, how they're designed. Some liquid staking ETFs may be designed like this. But what about like halving, like making half, like not 14 days, but 5 or 7? Maybe that would be Erwin. Maybe you have
the requirements that kind of come from these ETFs are T+2. Meaning they have to have 100% of their kind of capital there liquid in 2 days in case of like the people want to liquidate. So it is really right for these kind of black swan events. But yeah, it is the requirement. Like we can all argue and can go fight the political war, but like that's the reality there. So if you want to support this use case, it's this. This does tie into what Stephen said, that if we're talking only about this use case, I think that with only validation, it's good enough. The thing is that, of course, be aware that this means that these validators are, let's say, foregoing, like already foregoing any delegation rewards because they won't fit, right? So, but that, I mean, I'm fine with it because for our use case of the running for these ETFs and so on is enough for to have the validators, but it should be something that's aware for everybody. And another thing is that we could perhaps, and this is just me like thinking out loud right now, is that if we want to support valid delegations as well, we could kind of try to incentivize more longer periods by the usual mechanism of higher rewards rates, right? To also minimize that. But again, I understand this needs more research. So I'm fine with a simple right now.
Yeah. One like, thing as well is we could very much change delegations so that, essentially delegation is just taking your validation params and adding on top, right? And then rather than having like delegators like leaving whenever they are scheduled to leave, it's much more coupled to the validation period. Like that all of a sudden like kind of removes all the additional load on the delegation and kind of couples it in with the validator. Pros and cons, different ACP for sure.
Does, if we would set the minimum cycle for 1 day, would still this be like less, let's say, intensive of a calculation if it is included for the validator in this tight scenario like you're describing? Like, because it will be every day, right? Like so.
What is your question? Like your question is about.
Imagine like you have this tight scenario that you set for the delegations. That means that if I, as a validator, set the minimum cycle to 1 day, which is like I want to cover my ETF use case, right? And there's still delegations coming in because perhaps the ETF wants to actually delegate, like to put more or something. This still is a scenario where every day this computation of the delegations will also happen 1 day, or am I not? Is it not the same? Like it would still be simpler.
This is maybe going too far away from like continuous staking ACP.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll answer it and then we can maybe focus back on that. And I think maybe we want to transition to Jaack's thing. So the primary cost of doing the rewards the way we do it right now for both validations and delegations is not the like compute of like giving a UTXO. It's actually the fact that it couples it with block production because we do a like sampling of the network to determine if the validator is sufficiently online or not during their period. So like whenever a delegator ends, there's actually a network-wide sample to determine, hey, was the validator online sufficiently for this delegator to get this reward? So that's actually the most expensive part. And so if you couple it, then it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, very clear. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And sorry, the coupling there would just be because it's once for a single validator at the end of their validation period, and the delegators can't end before the end of that validation period.
Yeah.
And the UX trade-off would just be that when you're delegating, you have to find a node that has an end time that you want.
I can tell you our customers, not only ETFs, but also delegations would be very happy with a 1 day unstaking period there. Like it would be very seamless. So
it would also though probably need to tie in to continuous staking because like if someone delegates to you halfway through your period, you can't like just consider it as if they were there the whole time. So you would probably only actually take that into account for the next cycle.
Makes sense.
So like if continuous staking kind of goes in and we are happy with it, then maybe we can consider the delegation part of forcing them to be aligned up with that. But
sounds like a plan.
All right, I think we're almost more than halfway through the meeting, so I want to give Jaack a chance as well to present his ACP. But I think that everything's kind of related, so I'm sure we could continue this conversation too. Thanks for presenting, Razvan. It was great. All right, Jaack, go ahead and share your screen. Introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and take it away.
Just for a moment. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Can you see it full?
Yes, it's loading. And there we go.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Jaack Giacomo. I'm head of growth at RouteScan. Previously, product at AvaScan. AvaScan is still live, but we're focusing more on RouteScan now. I'm basically an Avalanche OG. I've been here since before the mainnet launch, and just now, as we run our business and try to, make it sustainable, just like getting back to the ecosystem and trying to help however I can. So the first ACP, this is ACP 247, is the first of a series of ACP that I'm planning to publish. I published another discussion on L1 stages classification framework and ACP 255, which would be about a new curve model for L1 validator fees. And the order I published the ACPs, it's for a reason that you're now going to see. So, so what is ACP 247? It starts from a core assumption, and the assumption is that we want to make things simple from a technical standpoint, because all the technical consequences and the political and business consequences may be far larger than the technical challenges. So we want to keep it simple enough so that we can manage everything. So ACP 247 has the goal of increasing the delegation multiplier for primary network validators from 4x to 24x. For those of you who don't know what the delegation multiplier is, it's the amount of delegations that that a single validator in the primary network can accept as a multiplication of their primary, their self-stake. The ACP wants to increase this delegation space 6 times to 24x, and as collateral, like to just compensate the things that I will share later, to reduce the maximum validator weight from 3 million AVAX to 1 million AVAX. These two simple changes will probably refactor the viability of Avalanche validators. Maybe Erwin can be happy for this. I don't know. Maybe we'll see that later. As solid business operations providing stable security for the network. The current pain points is that, so right now the market is what it is. AVAX prices fluctuating between $12 and $20 in the past 6 months. I'm gonna have a lowest stake validator as an example, because of course, low stake validators are the ones that are gonna be impacted more by this change. So minimum stake validators have to stake 2,000 AVAX, only make $1,500 to $2,500 per year, depending on on price, assuming a 6% APY, which is right now. Of course, APY was better, but we know that staking rewards are take into factor like the staking ratio and multiple factors. So right now it's 6%, but before I believe at the beginning, like the first 1-2 years, it was around 9%. So that was better, but we have to take into account what's current. Considering a good service setup that costs around $30 to $50 a month, it even costs less, but maybe you don't have enough monitoring tool for your validator. The actual return is around $1,000 to $2,000 per year, and that would be fine, if not for the fact that you're actually locking $20,000 or $40,000 worth of AVAX, and you're actually earning just a little bit less than 5.5% on your stake. Of course, that would be good if you versus staking on lending on Aave on other DeFi protocols. But we have to account for the fact that low stake validators are basically going out, leaving the network. We had a validator count that went down 48% in the last 12 months. And that is because even if accounting for delegations, yeah, Jovika?
On this particular point, the reason that the primary network validator count went down is that AvaCloud upgraded all the networks from subnets to L1s, which do not have primary network validators. This was the main source of the low stake validators that were available on the network. So I don't think it was economic incentives, but switching over from subnets to L1s.
Is this something that you're that you studied as experience? Because I've had reports of a Turkish community that of like 100 validators that left the network after APYs and price went down because of
there might be, but I would say big part of that is basically AvaCloud runs, I don't know, like 40, 50 mainnet networks, each of them having 5, 8, 10 validators, and all of them have been moved to L1s over this year in the last 6 months. So that's definitely a big part of the reason why the number of primary network validators decreased.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the total amount of validators, including L1 validators, has not changed massively. I think that we were previously at like 1,800, and I think that we're similarly at 1,800 if you include L1 validators now.
Yes. You
There
could
is-
argue that.
Just on the flip side, there might be both dynamics at play. The total amount of AVAX staked on the primary network, including validators, is down from like 260 million to 210 million over the past year, from what I saw. So there is less AVAX staked on primary network validators as well. So that's separate from the number of nodes, but yeah, I'm not sure how to break it all up. Just wanted to add this accounting point.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Of course, I didn't put everything in here, but I made a lot of study about how, of course, like also my personal experience. I remember like at the peak it was around 260 million AVAX. We had like a 65% staking ratio at the maximum, if I remember correctly. So still, that would be if AvaCloud runs the validators on the L1s, but the AVAX is still missing. There's like at least 50 million AVAX still missing, so that should be accounted for something. And another thing is that low stake validators, even if they have 5% delegation fees, which is hard to advertise, and if they fill their delegation space 100%, they only earn 20% more AVAX than their self-stake rewards. So a 2,000 AVAX validator will earn 120 AVAX in a year and only earn 24 AVAX out of their delegation fees. So, and this is, and the reason why this ACP was designed is that it's not about a study on what can we do mathematically to improve, but it's about psychological perception. Like I would guess Erwin would agree with me by saying that if I know that I only have 20%, or maybe in case of Chorus One and other big validators, I would have like 5 or 10% more earnings, but I need to do a lot of work, like to advertise and to collect rewards, basically, I would basically not do that. So that's, I believe, one of the key reasons why low stake validators are basically zeroing their delegations and are also leaving the network. For example, I just looked at our AVAX validators a few days ago, and I remember AVAX validators were like the biggest in terms of delegation space filled. We had almost 100% delegation in the first 1-2 years, and right now we hardly make it. One it's filled, one maybe 100%, but the other is like 20 or 30% or something like that. So we don't have 100% space filled, and we are like one of the Avalanche OGs, so we should have 100% space filled all the time, for our trust in the ecosystem. But that's not like this. So as I was saying, the core of the ACP is to delegation multiplier increase, but the maximum validator weight reduction is a corollary to control the possible outside influence by validators and to push bigger weight validators to delegate or to at least increase their operational barrier to have a big weight on the network, basically. I'm talking about more than 1 million validators that have to maybe, that are incentivized to split one or twice maybe to get more delegations. They still have to get those delegations though. So the gist of it is, as I was saying, without ACP 247, there's going to be 120 AVAX per year of self-stake rewards and up to 24 AVAX per year of delegation fees. And that accounts to 7.2% of total rewards APR. But with ACP 247, the same with 2000 stake validator, is going to be 120 AVAX per year self-stake rewards and up to 144 AVAX per year delegation fees if filled 100%. So if you do understand that if I have a validator and I'm gonna, stake 2000 AVAX, I have a strong incentive to try and collect as many delegation fees as possible because I can earn 120% more than my sole stake. So basically, the ACP 247 would increase the validator marketplace dynamics. And this accounts for up to 13.2% total rewards APR. The perfect use case that I envision for this ACP is L1s. So let's say that an Avalanche L1 gets funding either through VCs, Avalanche grants, community grants. They stake a portion of their proceeds on the primary network to earn rewards, and they collect rewards to give something back. Maybe they even increase their delegation fees from 5 to 10%, and they say, well, if you stake with me, you're gonna have tokens when we're gonna launch. Remember, maybe someone remembers initial subnets offering, a concept that was as of 2022. And so basically the idea was it's to L1s to have more foot on the primary network by staking, collecting rewards, and even restaking with the continuous staking possibly, so that they grow an even bigger presence on the L1, so that L1 horizontal scaling also accrues value to AVAX on the P-Chain. The biggest discussion point on this ACP is the fact that there's a sweet spot of 40,000 AVAX where you maximize your rewards. So it can be, possibly a vector of a Sybil attack, service vector of a Sybil attack, because I can have 1 million AVAX, and then with this ACP, I can just split my validator into 25 validators, and I can convince $24 million worth, 24 million AVAX to give delegations to myself, and possibly with 1 or 2 operators, I can do a single attack on the network. I've studied this a lot, and personally, I would conclude that you still need to be able to collect $24 million, 24 million AVAX. So that is really, really tough. And the capital that you're required to have that, of course, is going to be just 1 million AVAX if you're good enough to attract 24 million AVAX. But if you're just faking to have more delegations, you still have to have more capital, like potentially billions of dollars worth of AVAX to convince a large portion of the network to give you delegations. And of course, right now, what we're seeing is that there's only about 40 million AVAX that are locked in delegations. So they would have to combat for this 40 million rewards. Although it is also true that ACP 247 is also like a mechanism designed to unlock the remaining 200 million AVAX that are in the total supply, but not in the circulating supply, but not staked. So the the goal is to actually have more delegated AVAX, more validated AVAX, and to basically increase the buy pressure of AVAX. And this also links with the ACP that I published a few days ago, ACP 255, because ACP 255 proposes a new model for increasing the rent that L1s pay to the network. And basically, if this ACP 247 gets activated, that means that L1s can basically compensate the increase of the AVAX rent paid to P-Chain with more staking rewards on the primary network. I don't know if that makes sense in my mind, but I'm available for questions now. Yeah, Razvan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I really like this proposal, and maybe just as an add-on, maybe generalize it as a principle where smaller validators would have higher delegation multiples. So now what you're proposing is a single multiple, increasing the multiple. But I think that's great. It would encourage small validators to participate. But if you could generalize this even further, but I understand your point. You said, yeah, you want to make a simple proposal with a simple analysis to avoid a potential civil attack surface. But if you could generalize this in some sort of formula with a weak gradient, such that initially, the inverse relationship would be very flat to avoid a civil attack surface, and over time you could increase the inverse relationship such that smaller validators would get more and more delegator multiples. Then you could kind of tweak over time how much these small validators get and analyze the network if somebody is preparing a civil attack surface.
Yeah, thank you for that, Hassan. And I believe Avalanche, as all blockchain networks around these days, is a living creature. So everything that gets proposed, I don't believe it's going to be permanent, and it's just going to be another thing that we can study and maybe improve. So the reason why, or one moment that I finish this, and the reason why I stayed within the fixed delegation multiplier is that we do not want to give higher incentives to bigger validators to split into super small validators. That's the biggest thing. So right now we have, the thing is that each new improvement and change will change the perception and the psychology of the players that are acting in it. So while we do know what could happen with the simple fixed 24x delegation multiplier, would know that they would split their validators, but still it would get them a lot of time to collect all the delegations. What I personally don't know is what happens if you get maybe a 1 million validator and you split it like 500 times. That would also be like an operational overhead on P-Chain, and Steven would be really mad. I assure you. Yeah, sorry, Erwin.
No, I agree with what you said. Like, I like the idea. I just wanted to point out that assuming that we will have the Avalanche ACP 236 continuous staking, this will already be a huge difference in the dynamics, right? And at least I expect that there will be already attract way more staking than before, like, which is interesting, because like this thing of capping and making solid so that you lock for periods was also like the idea to attract staking and keep it stable there. But I think like with continuous staking, much more people will be willing to just go there and say stake, because I can always retrieve it later. So this will already change quite a lot of the dynamic, I expect. And then like with this ACP, what I do think is that yeah, actually I left a comment in the discussion. Can take a look later there, because it was today. But I do think like that there's point of Moonboy Moonboy, that it's this thing of the weight or the skin in the game of the validator. This is a real thing, right? A lot of people, a lot of networks, and in our situation, Avalanche, we also kind of delegate to our own validator. Most big validators do that or something like that. So it's not really per se an effect, but once 236 is there and this kind of dynamic changes, you can end up in a situation where there is indeed validators where like 90% of their stake is from delegations. And perhaps 90% of their stake is from delegations, not theirs, which is like potentially an issue. And I say that because we see that. So what I'm trying to say is like that perhaps this number of the cap is something like to be very what's called thoughtful about it and experiment with like adjusting this. And perhaps like in that comment I sent there, like I threw out an idea, and perhaps I will be burned at the stake here because I don't think it was never done. But we could, for example, say that delegators can only get rewards but not consensus. Is that, and that was not, I don't think it was ever done before, but like why would be a risk here for if delegators get rewards but are not part of the consensus, meaning the weight of the delegator is only the main stake. I wanted to throw out that idea just to see what comes out.
Yeah, I believe Stephen can answer this, because he, basically you don't want to pay for not security. That's the TLDR, right?
No, it's just to address this point of Moonboy, where indeed there are validators that have like 90% of their weight not being theirs, and this is an incentive for an attack, right? I don't say that it will happen, that the attack happens or not, or nothing. Or I'm just saying that this is something like that you have like much or less skin in the game. So if you want to address this, why just don't pay the delegators but not let them wait on the.
So this is again maybe along the lines of an idea that had been previously discussed years ago, which is, so if you were to do this, right, and you say, hey, we're going to make delegators not actually part of the staking weight, there's really no reason then to tie delegation to a validator at all, right? So at that point, like if you do that, like delegation is now not on a validator at all, and it's just an entirely separate process. What you're doing is you're just locking up stake. So we could do that. It kind of comes off like buying like a treasury, it's almost like a treasury, right? Where it's like, you buy the treasury and then you get the interest later, and like, you don't do anything. Like that in and of itself is maybe not completely crazy, because you are like locking up tokens, therefore like an attacker can't like, buy those tokens or rent those tokens to attack the network. So there is maybe some kind of like security improvement there. If we were to do this, it would make life a lot easier, because tying delegation to a validator technically is a lot more difficult than not. But I think if we wanted to do that, then we should probably look at how much delegators are getting paid for doing this, because it's a very different job than validators. So like, I would say in general, I'm like pretty in favor of like switching to like a bond-esque mechanism rather than the current delegation. But like if you did that, then the bond rate would probably be a lot less.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
it's a very different kind of conversation.
Yeah, but don't forget that the validators, are, at least right now, would still get a cut from the delegator reward, right? Like if we do go completely detached from validators, a lot of validators do get kind of their income, the point of this ACP, do get the income from delegations. So
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is like, let them still have to bond to a validator. Let the commission for the validator to be minimum commission for the validator to be higher, so that their bond, their rewards as delegator is less. But don't let them be part of the consensus, so that the validators cannot exploit this as a means to have oversized weight. But again, like this is perhaps discussion better put in the context of the discussion there in GitHub, but perhaps for something else. But I just wanted to raise this point of too much skin in, not enough skin in the game there. That is it's something that you see in other networks.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like having it tie into a validator, like the problem is, right, is like it's equivalent from a security perspective, having it tie into a validator to not having it tied into a validator. So like at that point, why should the network be paying more because they're tied into a validator when it doesn't actually do anything, right?
Yeah, and let's have an answer, but let's hear what the people.
Yeah, there's a solid queue of hands up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who is.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
So one thing to take into account with this proposal, the amount of stake directly corresponds to the resource usage on the validator. So if I have a minimum amount of AVAX stake on my validator, and suddenly I have 24 times the amount of stake added as delegations, I need to have, I don't know, 6-8 times more powerful validators. So that's somewhat of a denial of service factor. So in any case, I would propose that the validator can limit the amount of AVAX that can be added as delegation, not to have it open-ended 24x or whatever. 4x is basically manageable for more or less any kind of size, but outsize multiples of primary of the stake can be problematic from a resource standpoint. So something to consider.
I would say that this ACP would require the other couple of ACPs that are increasing the hardware requirements for validators. If the hardware requirements for validators are increased, then there's a higher level of minimum, let's say, higher minimum that even 2000 stake validators need to, have. So that could potentially work. But I also remember that up until the day before, Steven, maybe you know this, up until the day before Avalanche mainnet, the delegation multiplier was supposed to be infinite or extremely high. And then it was put at 4x. So I was wondering if that was the, like, if this reason was the reason that.
I can talk on both of the initial. So the max validator stake, the reason it was set to 3 million, well, okay, not like 3 million specifically, but the reason there is a max validator stake at all is because of this concern around increasing load. Because like when the consensus protocol is doing sampling, it is going to be, sampling based off of weight. So if you had like one node with like half the stake in the network, like everybody's just going to be spamming that one node and you lose like the benefits of Snow consensus. So we wanted to have like a, some
spot.
level of like uniformity. Like obviously like a 3 million stake node is going to have way more samples than a 2K staked node, but like we didn't want to have like a 50 million stake node and just having everyone spam them. So that was why we added the 3 million. The like 5x cap on total weight versus like initial staked weight was specifically for the skin in the game argument of like we wanted to ensure that validators did not have outsized control more than the tokens that they personally owned. So those were the two concerns that resulted in those two constraints. There was that was that.
That makes
So
sense.
there was not a concern of like a 2K staked node having, maybe there should have been, but like, there was not at the time a concern around like the 2K staked nodes weight getting pushed up to like 3 million, causing like the network load on it to go up, because it was kind of deemed that like a 3 million stake node could like perform fine on reasonable hardware. So that was the rationale for the caps in the past.
Eric, you can go ahead.
Hi, yes. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is my first time participating in calls like this. So just a quick intro about myself. So I joined the Avalanche Foundation as the lead economist here. And I've been recently looking into validator/delegator economics and some tokenomics issues. So this might be a slight change of gear, but I do want to share some of the empirical observations that I got related to both this ACP and future ACPs around these issues. And I've actually been following this ACP since pretty early. So very nice to see your face, Jaack.
Thank you.
Yes, can I actually share my screen? Might be easier with some visuals.
Yep. You can just take over.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so let me start with kind of the highest observations. Just, what are we observing in terms of the delegation capacity utilization across time? So the line you want to focus on is this blue line here. So that's the delegation capacity utilization at any point in time. So 100% being all 4x of the current max is being dedicated to, and 0 being there's no dedication at all. And to help with some inference, I also plotted some other quantities here, just so you can make a better sense of like what's going on. But so here are the kind of the high level takeaways. Overall, the delegation capacity utilization fluctuates around 5% over time. And the simple average delegation fee, which is a key parameter, affects the delegators' decisions when they choose where to delegate. That has been increasing in the past 2 years, but the weighted average delegation fee has been dropping recently. So this weighted average is weighted by the self-stake amount, suggesting that there is an increasing number of small nodes with high delegation fees. And
yeah, they're just I saw that, and my opinion with that is they just don't want delegation fees. They just don't want them.
Yep. There has been an increase in capacity utilization since early 2025, but that's primarily driven by a decrease in self-stake amount, as evidenced by the kind of the downward sloping in the sum of self-stake at the beginning of 2025. Okay, and then move on to the second piece. So this plots the concentration, measures the concentration of delegation share over time. So the idea here is that at any given point in time, when there's a delegator coming in, choosing which node to delegate to, there are a whole bunch of available nodes, right? And then if I allocate a certain amount to a node, they get a share of total delegated amount in that period. So this metric, Herfindahl index, looks at the essentially the market share of nodes in terms of attracting delegation amount at every week over time, right? So, and we can see that it's what the delegation. So first of all, the level of this metric is very low, meaning that the delegation tend to be spread out among a lot of available nodes. So we don't see much of a concentration, like one or several nodes attracting a lot of delegated amounts. Yep.
So you're saying like there's no competition because it's competitive. So there's no competition, basically.
Well, so typically the way to interpret this is if we have a very low concentration, it means perfect competition. But you do have to take into account the nuance that in the competition for delegation, there are different sets of nodes, as you just mentioned, right? So there are certain nodes that they just don't want to attract delegation, right? So they may set a 100% delegation fee. So those should be as different, right? So they're not even in the market. But this plot here doesn't take into account that, right? So so I wouldn't say like this would suggest either there is enough competition or no. But yeah, this is just overall, we do see competition spread out.
But how I see it, sorry for interrupting, but how I see it is that it's either perfect competition or just random choice. There's no way, because I went to AVAScan, I went to AVAScan info, and I simply looked at claimed versus non-claimed validators, and there's no difference.
Absolutely.
There's no difference in delegations. So it's really random. Like they just open up and click whatever.
Validators are commoditized. They're essentially fungible.
It's not a service. It's not a business. So it's not competitive. So it's the perfect competition example. It's actually perfect competition because there's no competition at all.
Yeah. So perfect competition in the sense that like my node is no different from yours, right?
Correct,
so like I do no better than you in that sense. So one way to interpret it is essentially there's very little differentiation across the validation nodes when it comes to delegated choices. So the third one is a set of results related to the relationship between the delegation capacity utilization and delegation fee. So the first one is across so all the stints, all the validation stints since Genesis. Every bubble here is a stint. And on the y-axis, that's the kind of the lifetime maximum delegation capacity utilization, right? So just look at, let's say, a 6 months validation node. And during that 6 month period, what is the maximum utilization of delegation capacity over that period, and plot it on the y-axis. And then the x-axis is just the delegation fee for that particular stint. So I think the key takeaway here is that when you kind of fit a weighted average relationship between these two quantities, you see a very clear negative relationship, right? So you start with like a 10% plus utilization percentage, down to like very low or average very low when the delegation fee is very high. But I think the most pronounced observation from this plot is that there is a very high significant variation across stints in terms of delegation capacity utilization, even though they're charging the same delegation fee, right? So this kind of is informative for this ACP in the sense that we'll probably not see some of these like lower utilized node to be directly impacted by the relaxation of the delegation multiplier, right? But these ones we might want to take a closer look, right? Because they are the ones with the binding constraint, right? So if they somehow, like these handful of nodes, they are somehow different in some dimension, and they're attracting a lot of delegations, and these are the ones that are going to be impacted by the most by this ACP. Yeah, so I think that's most of it, and then these three is just the kind of subsample analysis, looking at the 3 subperiods across the
I'm sorry,
regions.
I have to answer this. No, it's not 100% fee, it's 100% utilization. So the fee is maximum 20%, but it's not 100% fee, it's 100% utilization of the delegation capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Eric.
So these are the 3 subperiods across the 2 major updates. I think one of the only thing you can probably see is that there's the elasticity of the utilization with respect to fees seems to be decreasing pre and post Banff, but the slope seems to be the same post Durango. But do be cautious that we do have a lot of noise here. The R square is like less than 5%. So yeah, do take these results with a grain of salt. Yeah, so that's the things that I want to share.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out something that Gauthier mentioned in the chat. That is that probably all the delegation that you were seeing in the random choice is part of the AVAX Banky program. So that's one of the reasons. So if we basically factor out the AVAX delegations, we would be left with not nothing, but very, very low delegation activity. That's my guess. So yeah, sorry, Samuel, we have 5 minutes, so.
Yeah, cool. So I was actually wondering why would we stop at capping the delegation multiplier to 24 times? Because we could actually increase it to say an infinite percentage. I know we spoke about reducing the delegation weight in consensus to 0. And Stephen said how if we did that, then it might be better to decouple delegation stake from being assigned to a validator. But if we retain that coupling, then we could achieve motivation for validators to acquire as much delegation as they can physically get. We also could avoid the concerns about potential attack on the network liveness or security. I'll just give a note that as far as I can see, the biggest downside to an unlimited multiplier in that case is that there is a potentially large number of delegators that could stand to complain about potentially not being rewarded if the validator didn't hit the uptime requirement.
That's that is true, but I think that's part of the business. Like the delegator should be willing to kind of trust the validator. That's the whole premise, right? To get the that's also like why I think like even on the random choice, like you just choose among the validators with good metrics. Like I think like it's not
So to answer to you, the decision for the 24x and 1 million numbers is because they are numbers that are high enough so they could change something, but low enough so that they don't disrupt everything like 180. So that's why that's like what I did was basically going back and forth with my AI and saying and testing all the numbers possibly available between 5 and 50, and like running all the scenarios around what could be the best way forward. And I actually did that with a couple of samples, like a 2,000 AVAX and a 30,000 AVAX validators, so that it would be like right now, as Eric also was, confirming, hopefully, is that 2,000 AVAX or more validators are not incentivized to even attract delegations. So, and it's either a perfect competition or there's no competition whatsoever. We want to have higher competition, and we want to unlock the rest of the AVAX that it's dormant, let's say, for delegations. So that's why the number. We could potentially propose another ACP, but I would still want to have this first so that we can then benchmark it later. And with the learnings of this ACP, we can then formulate another one. That was my thought initially. So this, then you couple it with 255 to get L1s to pay more, but at the same time earn more on the primary network if they run validators. And then do other things to basically increase the buy pressure and revenue of AVAX.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. I guess I just wonder if there's still an opportunity there to increase it further while we're sort of discussing the ACP and considering, and this is kind of like fresh in everyone's mind, maybe there is an opportunity to just whack it to an infinite percentage and then alleviate those concerns about kind of the centralization potential by just taking delegation weight out of the set.
Yeah, but keep in mind that this is we still have a max validator weight, right? So for the total max validator weight. So even infinite, like, unless we want to change that as well.
Okay, so is the concern that people
that is included in this ACP changing it, though, right?
Sorry?
That max validator weight is included in changing this ACP.
Correct. From 3
okay.
to 1 million. Yeah.
So you're reducing. So then, like, it makes the higher multiples or even infinite doesn't make so much sense. I would say, like, I mean, in a nutshell, I do like the approach. This identify these parameters here that we're talking about, and that we have to tune them. I'm just not sure yet, like, what is the kind of the appropriate numbers, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, I think it's just a psychological number. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering if we're concerned that people would essentially just create minimum validator weight validators, so like 2K AVAX stake, and then they would target the 998K in order to get to the 1 million limit. And then you just have people splitting their stake into hundreds or thousands of those 2K validator minimum stake validators.
Yeah. Then I would say we have to discount the weight of the consensus for the delegator, because, like, then you're talking about a guy that has, let's say that he's a super salesman and he gets all the delegations he might want, and, like, he goes with like a 2,000 AVAX here, and, like, fills in fills a validator, and now takes another 2,000 just from the first month of rewards, and, like, continues like this, right? Like, this is the problem with the skin in the game that was mentioned before.
Do we not want to incentivize this super salesman to do his job really well and to be a super salesman and to attract those delegators?
I think that and my point is that yes, and you can do that while still not risking the security of the network, if you discount this consensus. But I see that there might be other problems that I'm not seeing at all. I don't know the unknowns.
Yeah, I just add that you're still incentivizing the validator to have a lot of delegators, the super salesman, but not giving them the permission to actually
use that to
work. Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm sure that Stephen is the guy that can answer you way better than me. What is the risk here?
I'm not going to answer that right. Well, so technically we are at time, and I know, like, I can at least stay on for a few more minutes, but I think a lot of us are going to have to drop off soon. So we do need to start wrapping it up. I know, So the concrete changes suggested in this ACP are changing the delegate, like the max delegator multiple to 25x, 24 like times the whatever, doesn't matter. So and then like reducing it from 3 million to 1 million max validator weight. Can we like succinctly say like for the max validator weight, what is our goal for changing that?
That is just to create a higher bound for basically the idea is that there are a lot of 1, 2, 3 million AVAX validators, and we would like to basically, like, I'm just gonna say it out loud. There's I believe that a few of those are also foundation validators, and if they are, what I'm gonna do with this ACP is basically say, why don't you like split your validators, or at least reduce your validators so you can unlock those AVAX, like force the foundation to basically use that AVAX as a delegation instead of validation, so to delegate instead of stake. And also maybe there are other validators that are doing the same thing.
But like, I just don't see that as being like realistic, right? Like if someone has 2 million AVAX on a validator right now, they aren't gonna like just delegate the rest. What they're gonna do is they're just gonna spin up more validators, right? Because like,
but it's still gonna be an operational overhead.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's annoying. But like, if running a validator was sufficiently annoying that they wouldn't do it, then they would have just delegated the whole thing to begin with, right? Like unless you like really lowering it, where it's like, okay, now like in order to run for any reasonable amount of stake, you have to like have a massive operation. But that's not good, right? Because like now you're just saying the only validators are the people that are like comfortable setting up a massive Kubernetes organized thing, and like so like,
one
I agree
alternative
with you, Steven.
One alternative would be to that I thought of is like leaving the 24x multiplier and modifying the formula for the calculation of the max stake limit so that it's like at least, like, let me just phrase it good. Let me just phrase it well, so that it's in the case of a 40K AVAX validator, it would still be 1 million AVAX, the total amount. So that's gonna be 24x, but the 24x is the limit, is the lower limit, and 3 million stake limit is the higher limit. Does that make sense? Right now, it's the opposite. Right now, it's whatever it's the lowest, I think. So basically, if I have 100K AVAX in stake, I can accept 2.5 million. If I have a million AVAX validator, I can accept maximum 3x. No, that would be the same, yes. So that would be like to keep it at 3 million, but still having the limit that it's right now with 40K AVAX validators. So yeah, I think it came out wrong, but yeah, the TLDR is basically to remove this reduction and just go with the multiplier. Yes, that would be
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily trying to like suggest any any specific change, but I'm more just like I'm curious for the rationale, because I don't. Yeah,
it's about forcing. It's about forcing that behavior. It's more about forcing that behavior than like if forcing the behavior, it's too tough on everything, everything combined. We could just start with the 24x and then yes, Razvan. Yes, sorry, yeah. So it's gonna be like, actually it's gonna be like 25 for stake amount. Yeah. So yeah, we could just go with the first, just the delegation multiplier, and then understanding if it does make sense to reduce the max weight.
Mhm.
It's just, the simplest thing, the most simple thing to actually change flip the perception on 180 about the competitiveness of the validation market. That's my goal with the ACP.
Yeah. So okay, so that I think that makes sense to me. As far as the increasing from the 5x to 25x, like I think the concern I have, right, is that like we're increasing a cap that we haven't hit, right? Like some nodes have it, but like, essentially what we're saying is, hey, the reason people don't do this is because there isn't enough money available for them to get if they were to hit the cap, so they don't. Therefore, like there's no kind of effort given, and you see basically random delegations, right? But it's like, if we were consistently hitting the cap, right, it would be really easy to say like, yeah, no, it makes sense. Let's lift it, because then like those people will, be able to have more, right? Like they're currently maxed out. But it's like right now, like we aren't actually maxed out, and we have to like wonder, well, why are we not maxed out? And it's like, it's an interpreting of the data game at that point. And that's my like, like
I think Michael,
on the flip side of this, right? It's like, well, if you increase the cap and nothing changes, nothing really broke.
Yeah, nothing changes.
Matters.
Yeah.
So like from that perspective, it's kind of like, why not change it? Like see what happens. We can experiment here, because it's not like we're currently capped out on this. So like if we were to change it, we're probably not seeing any. But I'm personally not convinced that if we change it, we will actually see a change. Now, is that I don't know that is for or against including it, right? Because it's like, I don't know what'll happen.
Sorry, I do the drop here.
Sorry.
I just wanted to add my very brief thoughts. I agree with Stephen, and I think there's clearly a lot of worthwhile discussion to be had in the realm of delegator and validator dynamics. And I think one approach that might make the most sense is to try to split these up into individual ACPs and then evaluate them, like which should be included together. For instance, changing the minimum delegator fee amount, increasing it maybe from 2 to 10 or 5% would further incentivize delegators to run their own validators. That would be good. Increasing the delegator, the delegation factor, as Stephen said, like maybe it won't change anything, which is fine. Maybe it would allow or incentivize validators to go get more delegators, but like seeing which of these make most sense to combine together to achieve the net goal of more locked for longer periods, I think is a certainly a worthwhile discussion that we should continue. So thanks for raising this, Jaack.
Thank you, Michael.
So see you all.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
And following that, and just for the sake of the recording that I'm going to post to YouTube, I do want to officially end the conversation here. You guys are welcome to stay in this meeting and talk till the end of time. And I think that this has been probably one of the best ACP meetings we've held, like ever. It's been super awesome to see everybody collaborate. It's very like topical, I guess, topic of discussion, right? It's like something so theoretical, but yet so applicable to like everybody's lives and what we do here on Avalanche. So I want to thank everybody for coming and for being active in the participation in the conversation. And we might need another one of these again to discuss maybe the next version or the next iteration of this ACP. So when we do, please come back and join us again. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Is